So welcome to stream. If this is your first time on stream, then the way that you speak to me is through Skype. My Skype address is in the box below. I do these streams every Sunday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. French time, but always check my website. I'm sorry to those that have been waiting for the stream this afternoon, but a massive crash of my computer, and now I'm back online, but I think that it didn't publish, it didn't go to emails, but it will do on Sunday. I apologize about today. It happens sometimes. If you want to call, then call or send a message through Skype. I'm just about to do an introduction and then I can take questions. So I think one of the biggest questions that I think I receive from people is people worrying about if they wake up or if they really let go, that they will stop working or they'll stop with their career. And yeah, they'll just lose energy or they'll lose momentum to work. And the trick is that you perceive life incorrectly because you assume it's your job to make money. You assume that it's down to you to make money. That it's sorry, just technical stuff. Sorry. So you assume that it's your job to make money. And then you have this relationship with money, this relationship with work, but it's never your job to make money. Money happens. Money comes. A job comes. and job happens. And it's not your job to create or make your job. Your job is to be. That's it. And there has to be absolute conviction in this. That the only place to act from is now, is here, is in presence. And that acting from time will never bring you true success and never really bring you safety or freedom. You see, you can work at a job your whole life. You can work really hard and you can produce more and more money. But if you don't feel like you're at home, so if you're still seeking for truth, then the money will never be enough. You'll always feel like you're poor, and you'll never feel like you make it. So the most important thing to happen is not you thinking, okay, but if I give up, money won't happen. The most important thing to happen is to give up, is to surrender back into what you are, which is freedom. Which is this. That's the freedom. That's the freedom. And then money and your job and your career will work its way out, not the other way around. You see, it's never going to work. You're never going to get to feel rich when you're separate. You'll always feel poor. You'll always feel like you don't have enough security and that you have to find that security in time. This has to be an absolute trust, an absolute surrender back into what you are. Absolute trust that whatever happens is exactly what's meant to happen and is the best thing that could possibly happen and is coming from you. It's coming from who you truly are. So therefore it's love, absolute love. Absolute intimacy. And that has to be the conviction that this is who you are, what is who you are, and you have to forget about life on the intellectual level, on the human level. You have to forget it, give it back to the divine. Just this, just what's happening right now, and deal with all your problems right now head on, but they're not problems because they're coming from this. They're coming from who you are, so nothing can ever be a problem. You can call them problems, so like if you have difficulties with your computer or you have difficulties with friends, but that's only words for them. Really, there are no problems, there is only this, and this is free. This is love, a complete surrender to this love, to what you are. There is nothing you need to do but give your heart to this, totally, to the sound of my voice, to the feeling of your bum on the seat, to the smell, to the air, to the breeze, to the sensations. This is what is. And then let everything else take care of itself. And when you're dealing with that, you deal with that. You totally trust that it will be taken care of. It's not even you need to do that, it's just that your nature is trust. You stop trying to fix it in time, in this illusory sense of you. You can give everything back. There's nothing that you need to hold on to. Just be. And this is your altar, this is your God. This is the God. Not getting it in time, not making sure you have a career in time. Just this. Just this. Following this and following that, which brings the expansion, which moves towards the expansion. This is all that's important. Who you are is all that's important right here, right now. So the way you produce money, the way you should always produce money, is by moving towards that which feels expansive, which feels like love. Not that which makes you feel tight or contracted, but that which makes you feel like love. Because that's who you are. That's all you need to do is follow that, the expansion. And it's not really you following it, because who would follow it? It's just always moving in love, moving with love. Maybe on the human level it feels like following love. Just moving towards that which is expansive. So if going to your work makes you feel contracted and tight, there has to be a questioning as to why you do that and what actually it is you want. And the way you know what you want is by that which opens your heart, which is opening your heart. But sometimes that can be confusing when you're really identified, because when you're really identified or when strong emotions are coming up, then everything feels confusing. You're not sure what's what or what feels like what. And so say if you have negative feelings about money, then maybe going to your work, and maybe your work does make you feel expansive, but because of the negative feelings around work or authority, that feels confusing. So if you want to work through any of that, we can speak on Skype in a minute. Hey Thomas. Is my volume still too low? Let me know. I've had to do this in such a rush because everything crashed, so I had to reinstall everything. So I'm going blind, so let me know. Hi Francisca. Hi Lisa. I really like your constantly changing ways of communication, because that's actually the clue to this no-thingness just recently that got me when I listened to these old edited talks. You leave no room for any new build-ups. Thank you for sharing. My pleasure. Yeah, maybe the camera is worse than normal. I just didn't have time to reload everything properly. I had massive meltdown of computers today. It happens. So it might not be as good a quality. I suspect that I've ended up getting the wrong settings in my streaming system. It's perfect now. Oh, cool. It's absolutely perfect. I might have changed it in the meantime when I found out it was too high or low. Hey ho. Oh, it's too much now. Okay, I'm going blind. I'm doing it all blind. So this is the only thing that's important, what's actually happening. Absolute intimacy. This doesn't mean a cutting off of feelings. I'm not talking about ignoring what you feel. What you feel is here. What you feel is what's happening. So this isn't like a ignoring of the human part. It's absolute intimacy with the human, with what's happening. So if you feel sad, there is sadness. If you feel happy, there is happiness. If you feel anger, there is anger. If you feel pride, there is pride. There's just what's happening. And there's an absolute freedom is an absolute surrender to this, giving into it. That there is only this, letting this move you rather than your ideas of you moving you. Just letting this move you. There's nothing you need to worry about. Life is taking care of itself. You don't need to get involved. The thinking mind is only about fixing problems in the moment. The illusory you, the one that's formed, that believes it's experiencing life, doesn't need to be involved. And who are you right here? Who is this you that's right here, that sits here and says, but Lisa, but Lisa, but Lisa, who is this? See that that's being experienced, that that's not the experiencer, that that's not who you are. It's a thought appearing. Who you are is this vastness, is this stillness, is this emptiness. And on the human level, it can just surrender back to this. There is nothing it needs to do. There is nowhere it needs to go. Life is happening. You don't need to put any effort into being conscious of it. It's a happening. The breathing's happening, the heartbeat is happening, the speaking is happening, the hearing is happening. And then the person sits there and is like, me, I've got to control, and it imagines all these future problems that it's got to control. You don't have any problems here. There are no problems here. There is no problem here. There isn't a problem here. You're free. Everything is free. Okay, so if anyone wants to speak on Skype. Hi Lisa, I do not have any specific questions. Still, I feel I want to probably tell you what is happening to me, what I did last month, how I feel. Loneliness. Maybe Vadios will just see the questions first and do the questions first, and then when they're finished, then we can talk. But because you don't have any questions, we'll just take those first. Hi Lisa, the song of the spirit is an endless vibration. However you sing, it always comes from love. Thanks, Lisa. With pleasure, Tim. Oh my God, so much love. Nice, Lewis. Hi Lisa, how does one surrender to the self? I have been trying to for a long time. All individuals are illusionary. It's not exactly you that surrenders to it. Surrendering happens. It's something that happens. All you need to do on the human level is be honest. Admit to yourself what you're feeling in every moment. So if you feel tight now, just totally embrace it, or sad or happy, whatever it is, like totally allow whatever feeling is here and present. And try to be as honest and genuine with that as you can be. And what I mean by being honest and genuine is we have all these layers of self, all these illusory levels and layers. Most people live in an illusory story of themselves, and it's completely out of touch with what you feel right now. So sometimes people can feel shame, but they tell them a story of pride, and underneath all that pride there's a deep sense of shame. So underneath all the bragging and the showing off and the bigging themselves up, there is a deep sense of shame. And so to that person, what I'd recommend is actually embracing that shame and embracing the sensation and the urge to brag. So it's like embracing all these dynamics of being human, letting it be here, like letting it feel presence, rather than you escaping from presence by the illusory story of you and keep running in time about how much better you are than this person and how this person's done this or this person's done that. Just totally embrace what's happening now. And then bring your attention, you can also bring your attention back to the I am, which is presence, which is kind of the same of what I've just been saying. If you feel like you've been seeking a long time, you can just ask yourself, what is it that I'm running from? Like rather than what is it that I'm running to and what is it that I want, what is it that I'm actually running from? What is it that I'm hiding from? And just be open to that, allow it in. There's nothing to be afraid of because you're running from love. So it's just a matter of stop running and totally trust that everything comes from that love and that you don't need to keep hunting in time. You don't need to keep looking for it in time. That person doesn't need to keep telling itself all these stories to get peace. Peace is, the person is like the opposite to peace. It keeps trying to relax itself by an action, by something it does, by a feeling, by holding on to something. Beautiful. Hey Lisa, wonderful to see you again. Thank you. Can we talk? Sure, we can talk. Do you want to call Hannah? Or do you want me to answer the written ones? I think I'll prefer to talk. I can answer the written ones if you like. Hi, Hannah.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for the second chance.
Oh, that's okay. But just be aware that it's going to be recorded, so...
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm,
How are you
nice
today?
to see you. I'm very good. Feeling normal. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I have a question
Sure.
about you talk about the body awareness a lot, and I'm into that too. Also, and when I feel a negative emotion or worried, I feel the energy on the face area, literally on the face.
Yeah.
Face and neck, and I'm worried. I was wondering a long time which chakra is that, and why do I feel that on the face?
Yeah. It could be a combination of things. It could be compulsive thinking. So compulsive thinking can be felt in the forehead or on the face. But also it can be when the energy is rising. So when the energy is rising up through the body, what does your body feel like right now?
Right now, I think excited. It feels a little nervous.
Yeah.
And tight.
Yeah. And where do you feel the excitement and the nervousness?
My legs.
Yeah.
And it feels like on the forehead. Arms. It's like everywhere.
So what does it feel like? So if we just go through some of the chakra points, what does it feel like below your belly right now?
Warmth, tickling, right below on my belly. It feels warmth, and like butterflies.
Yeah. What about above your belly button in your solar plexus?
It feels better than sadness, better than usual.
Yeah.
But nervous, little nervous, I could say.
Yeah.
It's like contracting.
And what about in your heart area?
It's pulsating very fast.
Yeah.
Tight as well.
And so would you say the strongest area of feeling is in your forehead over those feelings?
Yes.
It's because you're living in your imagination of what you feel and think, rather than actually in the feelings and in the body. So would you say that your attention is mostly in your thoughts or in your body?
Yeah, it's both. I find myself driven by thoughts very often, and when, for example, my children cry, I feel it very much pain in my body.
Yeah. And what does the body feel like? Do you feel it in a particular area, or does it just all feel painful?
In chest area, it's like something kicking in my chest.
Yeah.
And when lastly I was feeling very often irritated, then I feel it on my forehead.
Yeah.
Or my nose.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of something called Pastner meditation?
No.
Pastner meditation is bodily meditation, and it's about going through your body and feeling your body intensely.
Okay.
And you might find it really beneficial, because I get the sense that maybe there is a lot of attention in your forehead. And so if there's a lot of attention in your forehead, it's a lot of attention in what you're thinking and in your imagination of what you're feeling. Even though it sounds like you're getting awareness of what you feel, it sounds like what's happening is that when you feel something, you're very quickly telling yourself a story about it, and therefore the energy goes up to your forehead, so the energy is rising quickly to your forehead. And this is why you're feeling a lot of pressure in the face. What does your neck feel like?
Neck, a lot of tension.
Yeah.
On the back, back of the neck.
Yeah.
And in front of the neck, I think it feels vulnerable, ready to get out something, but it can't. It's maybe I'm imagining too.
Yeah.
I see.
So
okay.
I would practice some bodily meditation, getting to know your body and moving the personal awareness into the body more. So the consciousness is conscious of everything simultaneously, like it's conscious. It's just conscious. Whatever appears, that is consciousness. And then we've got this personal awareness, and most people's personal awareness is just behind the eyes and in the thinking. So most people are walking around just like walking heads, basically. And dependent on how strong that is, so for some people it's so strong they have no awareness of their feelings at all, and they most probably aren't into this subject. And then when you begin to get into this subject, you become more aware of what you feel. So people that are just aware of what they think, you can normally feel it if you're more sensitive, because it's almost like, it's not like they're lying, but they're almost a lot of the time in a contradiction of themselves. So they're telling themselves how peaceful they are or something, or how much they love the world, but really in the body they're really hating the world and really not peaceful at all. Or maybe they might be telling themselves a story how bad the world is and society is, and that everyone should be more environmentally friendly. And then in the body, they're actually in a lot of hatred and anger themselves, but they don't have any consciousness, like personal awareness of it, because the thoughts are just focused on how destructive the world is or how bad the world is. And they can't tell that internally they're actually feeling a lot of devastation and destruction and discomfort. And that's actually why their thoughts are focusing on how bad the world is. So it's actually a reflection of what they're feeling in the body, but they don't put their attention into the body, so they have no sense of that. It's almost like a different world. And their thinking and their energy body is really tense, and if you go near them, you can feel it, but they don't report the story of it, so they don't notice that it's there. They do feel uncomfortable though, and it will manifest as like not dealing with problems well, most probably. So a lot of blame and a lot of hatred towards other people and not dealing with their problems properly. So when a problem arises, they're instantly blaming someone else or something else. Like that's what it will most probably look like. But I would say that society in general walks around as these walking heads. They're just totally involved in their story of themselves rather than actually what's happening. And partly that's because it takes a lot of surrender to admit what's happening, because it's really vulnerability, and you're not playing this human game anymore of pretending you're better than everyone and everything in some way, or pretending you're worse than everyone and everything, depending on what you're identifying with. But it's like admitting your vulnerability, admitting your innocence in this moment, and not living in what you've been taught you should be or shouldn't be. So a lot of people are very judgmental and gossiping, and they like newspapers gossiping about other people, because that's the way they're judging themselves, that's the way they're seeing themselves. So they think that you shouldn't act like this or you should act like this, and really they're holding that on themselves. And rather than being free like a child, you know how a child just gets up and spins in the middle of the room or is quiet when it wants to be, rather than being like that, they're living through all these constraints of what they imagine they should be. And it's all in this imagination of what you should be, rather than what you actually are right here. So the personal attention, like a thing that I can recommend that you practice, even though ultimately when you really realize this, you see that there's nobody that's practicing anything, because there's nobody here. But on the personal level, you put your attention more and more into the body. The reason that your feelings are rising quickly and you're feeling that tension in your face is because you're not feeling the feelings in the right place. So when you feel fear, the attention isn't going to your belly, but you're interpreting your fear mentally. You're not feeling it in the heart, but you're interpreting it mentally. So you might be blaming someone or telling yourself a story about how it's not your fault or it's their fault or why you feel like that, rather than actually really feeling the rawness of what your heart is saying. And the reason that we develop this, living in a storyland, is we think we can control it. But you can't control life. Life is uncontrollable, and you don't need to control life. Everything that you seek, everything that you look for is your nature. That love that you're trying to get to in time is right here. The home is right here.
And the needed action comes spontaneously.
Yeah. From who you are, right here. When you need to speak. So most of the time when we're in conversation, we're already in what we're going to say, what we're going to be, what we look like to the other. But it's just a dropping into what's happening and letting the speaking come.
So wonderful.
It's really effortless on like being you doesn't require any effort to be you. The person, the illusory person, is a lot of effort. It doesn't require any effort to be you. You already are you. It's just that we've been taught not to trust who we are. We've been taught that we have to control who we are. If we're really ourselves, we'll be a bad person, or we won't do our jobs, or we won't be responsible. It's not true.
I will try.
In a way, it's not even any effort of you. Even though I recommend the practice, it's actually a description of what can happen. But sometimes when I say that, it leads the person to this story of disempowerment. So they hear this and it pushes them into disempowerment, like I can't do it. Because I'm not saying you can't do it or there's nothing for you to do. You can't get to enlightenment, or there's nothing for you to do to get to enlightenment. Because that's a story, that's not what I'm saying. But that's what the disempowered person can interpret. What's being said is it will happen, it happens. But it's not this story of I can't do it or I won't get there, I can't make this happen. That's another story. It's something that's happening, you is happening, life is happening. And it's this collapse back into that flow, which is love. When you're saying I can't do it, I can't get to enlightenment, that's normally a contracted and tight feeling, and this is talking about this expansive feeling. So that's not it. That's a story of you. I can't do it, I can't get there.
Yes, I see. I think I don't understand that intellectually so much, but I think I get it somehow. But I will listen to you speak again.
Oh, nice. No, thanks for calling in again, Hannah. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very brave. Thank you.
Lisa, can I ask you the second question?
Oh yeah, sure. I thought, yes, the second question, yeah.
Okay. Before, I was very good at positive thinking and attracting things.
Yeah.
So this, and it's different now. And this has changed now, but still, I could attract everything I wanted, so to speak. But then I suddenly got very scared, like a panic attack, and just gave up the job of my dreams and everything. And now I'm aware that it will be recorded, so it's okay. And so then I suddenly started regretting myself, and now I can't create again. I'm afraid of creating again. Is that the stage to enlightenment, or is that just psychological disease?
Well, I mean, we don't need to define it, but the reason that the panic attacks are happening is because you weren't acknowledging your shadow. So the panic attacks are a result of not acknowledging the shadow of being a human. So when you were creating before, so you most probably had lots of positivity and a really beautiful outlook, but there would have been times where fear came up or other feelings arose and you ignored them and didn't acknowledge them. And through the continuous you didn't ignore your difficult feelings?
Yes, I ignored, yes.
Yeah, and that's what will have led to the panic attacks. It's like a building up of ignorance. So positive thinking needs to be natural. You can't, if you try to ignore negativity or ignore anything difficult by putting lots of positive thoughts on top, then what you're going to have is you're going to have a build up in your body energetically of this negativity, of this underlying negativity. So it's a result, so panic attacks can happen to anybody, and it's a result of not acknowledging underlying deep thoughts. So, you know, when you, and it's the ignoring of them, like a repetitive ignoring of them. So I personally don't believe there is such a thing as mental illness. I think all of it is to do with the way that we're taught to look at life, and it's a build-up of ignoring certain aspects of our experience, or not being allowed to include certain aspects of our experience, because not all of us are the same. All of us, like everyone, has a variety of colours, and our society is very narrow in what we have to be. And life, to be a balanced human, you have to really embrace yourself on the human level, and that sometimes might not fit into what we want to be, what our idea of ourselves is, or what society wants us to be. And panic attacks are a result of not acknowledging negative feelings. So when you have a negative feeling about something, not giving it space to be felt. You can't talk yourself out of something. So if a negative feeling comes in, if you're afraid of standing on the street because of something, rather than so say if you see someone that makes you afraid, rather than trying to push positive thoughts on it, you have to first embrace the feeling and admit that you feel afraid. A lot of the time we don't even admit we feel afraid because we're afraid of admitting we feel afraid. So you have to firstly admit it, like, I feel afraid of that person, and feel the vulnerability of it. Like, I'm afraid of this person. So on the surface, what the thoughts might appear of is hate for that person. I dislike that person. Look how terribly they're dressed, or look at the way they move, or who do they think they are taking up so much space on the bus. So it might present itself as dislike, but if you're really honest with your feelings, you'll notice that you feel vulnerable and afraid of that person, more than likely. It normally comes to two lots of feelings: feeling afraid or feeling lack of love. So you admit the fear of that person. So rather than trying to push your feelings into positive feelings, if you're feeling dislike, you sort of push it into feelings of positive. First, you have to admit the negativity that you feel. So you feel afraid of that person, and then you ask yourself, what is it that I want in this moment? And what you want is, I want to feel safe. So you acknowledge that feeling, I want to feel safe. And then you go to the positive feelings by saying, I'm allowed to feel safe now. I'm allowed to feel loved. I'm allowed to feel secure. But you mustn't ignore the initial feelings. You mustn't jump from hating someone to trying to push yourself to like someone. You first of all have to admit the most vulnerable feeling you can admit. The most rawest feeling of you, because what happens is you have this raw feeling of fear, and then it gets translated into I dislike that person. So you have to go backwards and admit the most rawest feeling. Then once you've admitted it, you ask what it is. I want to feel loved. I want to feel secure now. And then you allow yourself that. I allow myself to feel love. I allow myself to feel secure. But you mustn't lie on the thought level. You have to let the positivity come through the feeling level as well. So I feel that panic attacks come from the ignorance of what we're feeling deep down, and then the avoidance of these situations or these feelings. So then the next time you avoid that person or you avoid that situation, but you're not even conscious of it, you're unconsciously doing that. Does that resonate at all?
Yes, it really makes sense. It made clear.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know, but I answer of why I felt like that, and now I just should when I feel regret and beating up on myself, also acknowledge that and allow myself feel that.
So yeah, totally. So when you feel the regret, so if the regret comes up of I used to be so positive and then I made a mistake, I did this, I did that, rather than just going on the train of thinking, so you're on the train of like self-destruction, like really beating yourself up, you go down to the feeling. And so in the feeling, you find where it is in the body, or you find where it is in your experience. And
without thinking about it.
Yeah, and go to the most vulnerable feeling. So most probably the most vulnerable feeling in regret is fear. You're fearing the future. You're fearing what's going to happen to you. I don't know, I haven't stepped through it with you. I'm just making suggestions for you to reflect on this yourself afterwards. But it's most probably a fear of what the future is going to bring. So you just acknowledge that. I'm afraid of what the future is going to bring. And then you ask yourself, so once you've acknowledged that feeling, you're really honest with yourself, then you ask, what is it you want? And what you want is, you want the future to be prosperous. You want the future to be friendly, to not be scary. So you acknowledge that that's actually what you're wanting. And then you say, I'm totally allowed that. And once you line up with your wants, that will happen. I'm totally allowed to feel like the future will be prosperous, that it will be friendly. Because life is never against you. You just have to line up with what you want. Because when you are pushing away what you didn't want on the feeling level, so you're pushing away fear, you're actually bringing it towards you because you're putting too much energy there.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Anna.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you, and thank you for being brave and phoning again. You're very brave. Lots of love to you, Hannah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Sweet. That's really sweet. Hannah phoned a few weeks ago, and then afterwards she felt quite vulnerable, I think, when I spoke with her, and I just think she was really amazing to put herself out there again. It's really great, Hannah. Hi Helen, hi Lisa. I just tuned in. There was no notification on my email, and I always get one. Yeah, sorry Helen. Actually, this was me. My whole computer crashed, my whole system, everything. I lost a computer today, it died, and I had to put all the settings in, and I put the setting in Gmail as unlisted. And so that's why I didn't send out emails to people. So I apologize if you didn't get that. It will, next time it will be on. I just had to reset everything in a very short amount of time. So when I now try to turn on the notifications, I can't find where to do it. Something must have changed. No, it's me. It was me, Helen. So yeah, guys, you don't have to worry. You don't have to change anything. It's not the settings. It was me. And I couldn't. And then I tried to broadcast again so people would get the emails, and that failed because of the settings. But it will, because of my mistake, nobody else's mistakes, because it's set to sync with YouTube, so it needs a period of time before. Anyway, you don't even need to know that information. It was all my fault today. Well, it wasn't my fault, but it's the computer's. No, it's nobody's fault. It just is something that happened. The computer died, and I had to reinstall everything very quickly. I'm actually a whiz I whizzed. You should have seen me whiz. Even my mum was helping me, bless her. Yeah. So if anyone's concerned they don't get emails next time, you will. It's just me. It was my problem. Wonderful chat there. Beautiful advice also. Being truthful and honest with yourself, total key. Love that she was being so open and real. Much love. Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Hi, Lisa. A few years ago, I came to a point where I was completely adamant on suicide. Without having touched spirituality, I spontaneously renounced everything and asked myself, who am I? Then grace happened and the ego was silenced. It was amazing that the self can do that. I feel now that moment was disdained. Yeah, I've heard this before. It is a total surrender, and so in suicide, I think when people want to commit suicide, I don't actually think they want to kill the body. They want to kill the suffering, and the suffering is separation. You see, everyone imagines their problem in life is to do with life, so it's to do with the failed relationship or the failed career or the successful career. That could be suffering too, or because of this or that, or because people don't like you, or they like you too much, or terrible things happen to you. But that's actually not the problem. The problem is the separation from life, because who you are is love, absolute radical love. And I can't say it enough, because when you're separate, you don't feel that. You feel like you're not home. You feel limited, and who you are is not limited. So when you were imagining suicide and who was it that died, there was a break that happened, and that love was revealed, this presence. But then the person gets back in, and then the person begins to see itself in time, and life is too stressful to live in time. It's too stressful to believe that life is your responsibility and that you're responsible for it. You're not responsible for this life. And so when the suicide was imagined in your case, there was an absolute surrender that happened. Because your problems, like think about your problems are always time-bound, but who you are is timeless. And it's this shift of attention from this time-bound reality where it's you, what's going to happen, to this instant where there's nothing happening, where there's just freedom, there's just life. And it's this energetic shift from being that character to being this freedom. And even though the character still runs, and it runs in its habits, and it does the same things, and it thinks this and thinks that, the energy is focused on the timeless. So there's a freedom, there's this love that's present, this home. So you're home, even if the character's like, my computer broke. There's this other part that's totally free. And I wasn't doing that when my computer broke today. I was actually, how the hell do I get my euros into pounds? It's hard. I'm in England and all my money's in euros, and none of the cards were activated to work in England, and I'm just about to go back to euros. So I'd spent all my pounds. So that was my dilemma. It wasn't, what do I do about my broken computer? My dilemma was, how do I get pounds instantly? Because I'm going back tomorrow, so I had to buy the computer today because I can't buy a French computer. They have French keyboards. If you're American, you most probably don't realize that there's different keyboards. Sorry, America. The English are just the same, actually. It's just because I've lived all over the country, all over the world, that I know The English would just imagine that all keyboards are English. So I'm bitching about America, but England's just the same. England's like a mini America. It's not. It's supposed to be closer to American than it is to European. Or maybe technically it should be America's like a big England. Maybe it should be the other way round. I don't know. So I think there's somebody else that wants to come. Cool. Now my family came home, I got distracted. Maybe we can talk another time. Oh, I was just about to say we could talk, Vediots. That's funny. Same with Normie, pretty similar in so many ways that it's not even funny. Yeah. I just don't. Hi Lisa, do you need to realize non-doership before looking for a non-dual awakening? My experience is the person needs to relax a lot. It's an absolute surrender into what's happening, and the person is so desperately seeking in time that it needs to surrender a lot to itself. It's like giving up on the person. So the person always thinks, I'm going to find the answer in myself. I'm going to do it. So I'm going to realize non-doership. I'm going to realize all these things, and I'm going to get to awakening. But it's actually the complete giving up of that person. And for that person to give up, there normally needs to be a lot of relaxing of that person, because the person is very full of itself. So it thinks, when I behave like this, when I do this, when I do that, when I get enough money, when I have enough children, when I have the right house, when I move to a better country, when the world is peaceful. So it's got all these things that it believes it needs to do to get to something. So say to get to enlightenment. Like, I can only be enlightenment once I got my finances sorted out. It has all these ideas of what it's got to do. I've got to realize non-dual. But actually, it's a surrender into that. And in order for a surrender into that, sometimes there has to be a relaxation with deeper feelings and a relaxation with itself. And then the idea of non-doership is a great way, in some ways, to relax the person. It can also be really destructive, because people that have a tendency towards powerlessness, a tendency towards depressive states, can take non-doership as a way, it's hopeless, it's pointless, I can't do it. And that's not what non-doership's talking about at all. It's actually really empowering non-doership. It's a total surrender to what's happening. It's letting life act. It's letting love act. It's letting what you want out, rather than keeping yourself in here in what you don't want and fearing this and fearing that. It's like a complete surrender to your natural flow of love, to that which is expansive. So non-doership's taken the right way, it can be a great way to relax that person. Taken the wrong way, it can be a way of that person keeping in a cycle of depressive thinking. The truth is that non-duality has got nothing to do with what you think on the human level. So it's nothing to do with reconditioning yourself or reconditioning your emotions or reconditioning what you think. It's the stillness of what is. It's seeing that the experiencer isn't the person. The experiencer is all things and no things, or if you like, the experiencer is consciousness and the I am. It's not this limited person that says, my name is Tom and I live in da-da and I do this and I do that. It's who you are is this expansive love. And that person needs, all that needs to happen is that person sort of lets go into that. So on the personal level, I've noticed that sometimes people have to get used to what they feel so they don't keep running into time to try to avoid what they feel. So coming back to what you feel, being honest with what you feel, and stop trying to complete the feeling in time. So say if you feel anxiety, stop trying to find safety all the time, but allow the anxiety to come up and get more used to these feelings rather than running away from them and transforming them into more positive feelings through the acceptance of them and through realizing it what you actually want on the deeper level. And I can work with you on this in one-to-one sessions, or you can call in on Skype and we can work through it bit by bit of understanding yourself. But it's not actually that person that wakes up. It's that person lets go into this mystery, into this infinite void, into the unknown. Like acting from the heart, acting from innocence. Okay. So that, let's, oops, sorry. End, sorry, wrong person. So is the realization only available in non-thinking, timeless place? No, it's not about non-thinking actually. It's about shift to that expansiveness, and thinking can still happen. It does profoundly change the thinking, but it's not about not thinking. Because there is consciousness if thoughts arise or not. Thinking is part of being human. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just stopping video.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice to speak with you.
Yeah, nice to speak with you.
You know, my family came home and I just had different feelings. I'm quite dependent on my feelings.
You're quite what?
Dependent on my feelings, like getting vulnerable easily.
Yeah. I think everybody is. Like a feeling happens and then there is an action to either try to avoid it or try and get more of that feeling.
So just practically thinking, you know, the mood changed and I things I was going to talk about, I just not here anymore.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, I'm very, very happy that we talk.
Yeah.
It was very much about energy. Last month for me, I was doing this for Fireflower and it gave results. And it was very much about energy, like every day, like day from day, and I collect lots of energy. But now I'm exhausted, and what I noticed that people like energy, like everyone intuitively moves towards energy. And
Yeah.
when you have energy, then like people like you and nice to you, and
Yeah.
and then maybe it collects from day to day and
Yeah.
totally different situations, and
Yeah.
and this also retreat gave a strong impulse to me, and like I talked to lots of people about strangest things, like old people and all kinds of people, both on the phone and the meeting and
So right now in this conversation, if you go into your body, I'm testing to see. So not testing, but like I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
So in this conversation, are you aware of what you want? This is a strong place to be, to know what it is you want. When you don't know what it is you want, you unconsciously seek to fulfill something. It's strong to know what you want on the human level. You go into a situation and you know what it is you want, you know what the direction is. Otherwise, you're kind of unconsciously acting out dynamics.
it might be emotion because it was much more stable before my family came, and now it's maybe emotion and I'm quite confused.
Yeah, and what if you go into your body? Do you have a sense of something you want right now? If I gave you the permission to want anything, you're allowed anything. Anything. There's nothing outside of the possibilities. You're really allowed to have anything.
It's like wanting to be loved, be in safe love, like when I was a child and my mom used to love me.
Yeah. Yeah. What does it feel like to say that?
Feels good, but I still don't quite trust it. And my wife got a little bit angry because I didn't like put the dishes in place, and she is tired.
You're totally allowed to feel that love of being home. Right now, there's nothing which stops that. You're allowed to feel loved. So is there a part of you that doesn't feel loved?
My body is a little bit washed out, and my heart area is very diffuse.
Yeah.
And my mind tells me that my feelings are now blocked, and my mind tells me that it happened when my family came, and they kind of were angry. And
What is it? What feeling do you think came up when they came home? Did you have a sense that you didn't want them to come home?
It's a long issue. Like, I want to have a safe place. Like I dream a lot about having a nice a job that I like, and it's kind of creative job, but that used to happen for many years, and I didn't do enough to change it. But at least I like to have a few hours in the afternoon, like when I can decide how, like plan my feelings. I'm feeling unsafe. It makes me very unsafe.
Yeah. So true safety is who you are, is home. But when you act out of unsafety, you just attract more unsafety towards you. So in your actions, you need to act from that which makes you feel expanded, that which feels like love.
And I thought that I often choose like harmony. I also use term harmony, but that's not how you say it.
Sorry?
Maybe it would be
You also
like,
what? Sorry, I missed that.
Being like harmony, it would be maybe easier for me like to just to go to my family and like do something harmonic, do something that they expect me to do, and so they would be calm and I would be calm, and it would be a better atmosphere, like, and I might remember those months that we were fighting a lot, and it's like maybe 2 years ago, and now it completely changed.
The problem,
we're not fighting.
But the problem is with your family is that you've got into this habit of, from your partner and in the situation, of looking for safety from them. So therefore, when you're around them, they encourage the feelings of dissafety. So this is why you begin to feel confused. Because initially, when you formed the relationships, you were trying to get something out of them that they can never give you. And now the relationships are all confused because lots of other feelings have arisen on top of that, where you feel like they don't give you safety, where you feel like they hurt you, where you feel vulnerable and insecure around them, all these other feelings and positive feelings as well. But then when you go near them, their feelings and your feelings are triggered and it all becomes confused. And you have to religiously act from that which makes you feel expansive, not that which shuts you down. So right now, what situation would feel like love now? If you could imagine anything that happens, what would make you feel like love?
I want to explain to my wife what happened.
And that makes you feel like love? That makes you feel expansive when you imagine that?
I would like to explain it the way that she understands, that she gets it.
And do you give yourself permission for that to happen?
Yeah.
It's not like a defense. You're not trying to convince her something as another way to defend. Like it feels all expansive. It all feels all in line. Like you're trying to convince her for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons. Not because it's out of fear or anxiety or because of some intellectual idea. It all feels expansive and in line.
Maybe I'm not quite sure because it's not real. I often dream like talking to her and that she would get me what I.
And why do you want her to get you?
What I want.
Why do you want her to understand you?
Because I want to be surrounded by people which I can communicate with.
And why do you want that?
It would be. It's very natural.
Are you sure it's not coming? Are you sure it's not coming from a place because you're seeking for love and security and home in the flow? Love, security, and home is your nature. Then you move towards love. You move towards that, imagining other people that you can live with, that you can share yourself with. Is that coming from a place of trying to look for love in the flow, or is that coming from the natural flow? You see, if it's coming from the place of trying to look for love in the flow, then it's a contraction. You're coming from a contraction. You're coming from a place of lack. If it's coming from a place of expansion, it feels like love. It feels in line. You're not looking from something from that situation. You're doing it out of an act of love, out of an act of giving. You're not trying to take from that situation. It's a different feeling. So it's like, do you imagine people around you that listen and understand you because you're looking for love and home from them, because you'll never find it. You'll be disappointed again. You'll feel let down again. It will make you feel more contracted. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I understand it, Lisa. Which means that I often act from lack and to defend my most vulnerable place.
And what actually you need to do is allow that lack in, acknowledge that you feel lack, and then ask yourself, what is it I want? I want to feel loved, I want to feel complete. And you acknowledge that that is this moment, that's not found in a thing. The love and the completion that you seek is right here. And you allow yourself that. You say, I'm totally allowed to feel at home. If you act and try to get that from people, it will end up the same story of feeling incomplete from people, feeling disappointed and let down from people.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll contemplate on that.
Yeah. And always explore your own experience. Like, listen to yourself over anything. Like your true experience, the expansive experience. You're allowed to. That's what home is. Home is this infinite possibilities.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Lots of love.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, maybe that's enough for tonight. I apologize again for people if you didn't get notifications. It's totally because of me. It's not anything to do with YouTube. It's not because they've changed their policies or their settings again. It's because my computer crashed and I had to reboot everything in 15, 20 minutes. Actually, maybe it was a little bit longer than that because I was late. But yeah, it was one of those things that happen. I send you lots of love, and there will be a session this Sunday, and I will be back in France. Exciting. I send you lots of love. Thanks, guys. Bye.